Hi, my name is David Bergvinson, and for the August 3rd, 2021 edition of the World Weather Watcher, we're going to be looking at extreme rainfall events across the globe and the impact they're having on our infrastructure and even loss of life. When we look to the last 30 days, we've been talking a lot about the dry conditions in the western part of Canada and the United States and the impact that has had on forest fires, especially in the province of British Columbia and in California. We've also been talking about the very wet conditions that have occurred in Europe, especially Germany, and the impact that has led to as far as flooding and damage and loss of life, as well as the wet conditions in the northern part of India that has led to landslides and the concerns that has brought, and of course over in Henan province in China, the extreme rainfall event that took place 10 days ago that led to extensive flooding and loss of life. And so we're going to zoom into these. And all of these events have been summarized in different ways by different reporting bureaus, including CBC in Canada, talking about reaching a tipping point when it comes to climate change and the impact that's having on a wide range of ecosystems. We also had a summary video produced by The Guardian showing the impact these extreme rainfall events have had across the globe. So I'll provide links to these articles and more in the description below. When we zoom into Zhengzhou, the capital of Henan province, we see that the rainfall 2 weeks ago was approximately 9 times what they would normally have during that week. The gold bar here indicating the long-term normal. And basically, they experienced a year's worth of rainfall in 3 days. This led to extensive flooding in the city, in part because it's along the Yellow River. And that river is the drainage for several different water basins in the entire area, leading to extensive damage to property, as well as at least 9 people being killed by that rainfall event. But it's interesting to note that the area surrounding Zhengzhou was relatively dry compared to normal. So this just points to why we need weather analytics, especially localized rainfall, to understand the hydrology and the infrastructure we need for the future to become climate resilient. When we look to the next 15 days, we see that welcome relief in the form of precipitation is occurring now in the western part of Canada, especially British Columbia, while we still see relatively dry conditions for the central part of the United States. And we're going to zoom into the impact that this is having in Minnesota shortly. We also see drier than normal conditions for Argentina and Brazil, and this has actually led to the drying up of key waterways that are used for transporting agriculture goods to port. So the impact this is having on our food system is significant, not only in the production but also in the movement of agriculture products. We see that for most of the Sahel, rainfall for the next 15 days is good to support agriculture, while we see drier than normal conditions for the central part of India. When we look to maximum temperature for the past 30 days, we see that Western Canada and the United States have been much warmer than normal, about 4 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer. We also see that for the southern part of South America, especially Argentina, much warmer than normal, as well as the northern part and southern part of Africa, as well as the western part of Russia. And we see a little cooler conditions than normal for Germany and France. When we look at the next 15 days for maximum temperature, we see that in the case of the central part of the United States, much warmer than normal conditions, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the impact this is going to have on agriculture crops. We also see warmer than normal conditions for much of South America, as well as South Africa, and a little cooler conditions across the Sahel of Africa, which is welcome relief given the high temperatures we've seen recently in northern Africa, and cooler conditions across most of Europe with the exception of Spain. When we go to the forecast for precipitation, we see that in the case of Oregon and California, extremely dry conditions the next 15 days. Not good news for agriculture or the forests. We do see reasonable rainfall across much of Western Africa, which is good news for farmers there, as well as for the eastern part of India. Slightly drier conditions than normal, though, in the forecast for the southern part of India. When we look to the critical ratio of precipitation over potential evapotranspiration, an index that is important to help us understand the level of water stress rain-fed crops like corn and soybean are under, when these indices are below 0.8, crops are under water stress. And so we can see that areas in red and orange here are dry conditions, both for agriculture and for forests, leading to drought stress. Reasonably good moisture, though, for agriculture through most of Mexico, as well as the northern part of South America, and good moisture to support rain-fed agriculture across most of West Africa, all the way across to the middle part of Ethiopia. Good conditions for most of India, a little bit drier for the southern part of India that we talked about earlier, and reasonably good conditions for most of Europe to support agriculture. When we look to the next 15 days, we see that the area across the United States has expanded, showing drier conditions, especially for agriculture. That's a little bit of concern. However, we do see some relief because of the rains in the western part of Canada, and that index now is well above 1 for the central part of British Columbia, for example. We see that the index for the next 15 days is good for West Africa, as well as the northern part of India, southern part of China, and for much of Europe, it's reasonably good conditions for rain-fed agriculture. When we zoom into southwest Minnesota, we actually see that the trend for this part of the world has actually been going up as it relates to this ratio of precipitation over potential evapotranspiration. And what we've seen, though, in 2021 is that it's significantly below that trend line, a value of around 0.5, which are conditions that would be stressing row crops like corn and soybean. And we can see that reflected in the bar graph below, where these blue bars indicating weekly rainfall as it relates to the long-term normal, which is the yellow line. And so we can see why crops in this part of the United States are under water stress. And analytics like this help us understand the risk of crop losses and help farmers better manage their crops in light of these insights. When we look to the precipitation anomaly that occurred in the northern part of India and why landslides occurred there, we can see that rainfall over the last 4 weeks has been well above normal. And last week, rainfall was about 3 times the normal. And so the soils were saturated by this above normal rainfall pattern, and then one last surge of much higher rainfall led to these landslides, flooding, damage to property, and loss of life. And the India Today highlighted this for Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, that we're expecting to see increased extreme rainfall events having more and more impact on both agriculture, but also loss of life due to flooding, extreme flooding events, and property damage. If analytics like this are of interest and value to you, I invite you to go to our adapter platform at apps.aware.com, where you can start your weather analytics journey for free. Until next week, take care.